sword to shoot a bull. I guess we're going live here. I gotta take an oath here and use that to read it.
His phone number is on this. You want me to drop it off?
We haven't got anything.
Just to see if he's on his way or something, or?
Yeah. We're rolling, so we can start.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the August 3rd, 2021, 7 p.m. meeting of the Union County Planning Board. Call to order, item number 1, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of reflection. If Louis, you'd lead us for the pledge.
I'd be honored.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Louis. The next item is the moment of reflection. This month, it's especially poignant given the sudden and unexpected passing of fellow board member and former chairman Everett Medlin. He passed away in June. He was very involved with this board over a number of years, as well as a leader within his local community and his fire department, and he will be sorely missed. Before we pause for the moment of reflection, I'd like to open it up for anyone wishing to speak.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. I got just a couple of comments here, fellas. I guess everybody knew that Everett was born and raised here in Union County. So that's kind of unique nowadays. I first met Everett when he was in the 2nd grade. He was an upperclassman, so I've known him for a while. I knew him for a while. And he began farming here, his occupation that he had whenever he got on the board with his father in Union County, only a couple of years after he graduated in UNC Chapel Hill. And he had a short banking career after that, but then his dad offered him the opportunity to farm with him, and he quickly accepted that. Everett was, I think, always a gentlemanly, polite, and thoughtful colleague to those of us on the board. And along with all the rest of you guys here tonight, he was a friend. Everett was a straight-up individual with unshakable integrity. He had empathy for everyone, and I mean everyone, regardless of social status, gender, race, net worth, age, religion, or education. To him, everybody was equal and deserved to be treated as such. One thing that really set Everett apart from a whole lot of people was that he listened, and he listened with an open mind. I saw him change his position more than once after a convincing argument. Sometimes it meant we didn't agree, but it probably made me respect him more and listen harder myself. Everett absolutely wanted everyone to get a fair shake. I'm not sure how long he served on this board, but I think you probably have to measure it in decades, wouldn't you, Lee? This was his way of serving the county and the people that chose to work and live here as he had. Rest in peace, buddy.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something? Everett was a good man, and Charlie, I appreciate the way you described him. I came on this board, I had the distinct pleasure of sitting next to him until he went off as chairman. And he taught me how to listen. He taught me to think it through before I spoke. And you talked about humility and things like that. I firmly believe that you're 100% right on that, Charlie. And he made the statement when he went off the board. He said, the one thing as a chair, he said, the one thing I'm proud of is that the group that sits here tonight has been one of the best groups we've ever had to work together with from my standpoint. We can agree to disagree. We can have civil conversation. We don't get upset with each other, but we do our job. And I tell you, It was a shock to me because he taught me a lot. He was a mentor, and it was always fun to ask him the question, well, how are the crops looking? What's going on at the farm? And you'd get an earful about it, whether it was good, bad, needed rain, didn't matter. He didn't mind sharing how things were going, but it was all very, very positive. And from my standpoint, he will be sorely missed. Our hearts go out to his family. And Everett, just know that we care about you, we'll always care about you. You'll be a permanent fixture in this chamber. And so, my friend, rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. If there's anyone else who wishes to speak at this time? Well, it's obvious Everett certainly left his mark on this board, and he'll be sorely missed. We may pause for a moment of reflection. All right, that brings us to item 1B, which would be the oath of office and swearing in of Louis Philippi.
Thank you, sir.
I was trying to pronounce based on the spelling.
I know it. I was off camera commenting about that.
I, Louis Philippi, do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent herewith, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as a member of the Union County Planning Board, so help me God. I, Louis Philippi, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will be faithful and bear the true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may not, or may be established for the government thereof, and that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God. I, Louis Philippi, do swear that I will well and truly execute the duties of the office of a member of the Union County Planning Board according to the best of my skill and ability, according to the law, so help me God.
Thank you, Louis. Welcome back for 3 more
Thank you,
years.
sir. Is it 3? I thought it was only 2.
And that's
I'm older than I thought.
that's Philippi with 1 L and 2 P's. Brings us to item number 2. This evening, we have no alternates, and all members present will be voting members. Item number 3, additions or deletions to the agenda. I would like to introduce an addition, item number 4A, being a request to consider recommending Robert McNally, who is currently an alternate member, to the Board of Commissioners as a full-time regular member of the Planning Board.
I'll second
All in favor?
that. Aye.
Thank you. Brings us to item number 5, which is the approval of the June 2021 minutes. Please take a moment to review these, and once we're done with that, if we could have a motion.
Mr. Chair, having read these before I got here, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as it's been presented unless someone has found something that I overlooked or missed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Which brings us to item number 6. This time I would normally make the comment anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning must sign up. At this time, we have no one present. That being said, I'd like to bring Mr. Jensen up, present RZ 2021-005, Sharon rezoning.
So this is a rezoning request to amend a parcel from R20 to RA20. The applicant requests that in order to allow cattle on the property. I do have a staff presentation, staff report, but before I get into that, Since the applicant is not here, I'm not sure if the board wants to continue with the item, or if the board would maybe want to
Mr. Chair,
consider punting
I
to
don't
next
mean to
month.
interrupt, Lee.
Sure.
But we could spend time going through this. I think we ought to table this, get another phone call, email out, and ask that the applicant, if he truly wants this to happen, he needs to be here, because I know I've got some questions. I heard some of the other people at this board had a couple of questions, et cetera, to be explained, and we can't second guess him, and I don't think we are qualified to make the right decision tonight. So I would ask that we table it, and someone would make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, I agree with, I agree.
All in favor of tabling this rezoning request until the applicant may be present? All opposed?
I would like to
Well,
thank.
before we move on from there, this would be a requirement for him to be present? You know, there's to be residential places with cows running around there, the guy's fence saying hi to his kids. I think if he doesn't think enough to come here, I don't think we should give him consideration at all. If he comes here, I'll be happy to listen to his case, and hopefully he can make a good case. Can we add that stipulation also?
I don't know that we could require someone to be here. However, if you didn't show up, you could always just recommend
Yeah.
denial.
Yeah, point. Yes, sir, okay, thank you.
Do we want to readdress?
We can let them know that ahead of time too.
Yeah,
You know,
we'll
if
definitely
if
do
you're not
that.
gonna be here, we're not gonna approve it.
Do we want to readdress that motion, perhaps statement of it's deferred, but if the applicant is not present, the default stance of this board would be denial?
I think we ought to give him a chance to come personally, and if he doesn't, next time, then we
Oh, yeah,
take the
I mean,
appropriate action.
It would be next month, put it on the agenda for next month if he doesn't show up within a month. You know, obviously he's not too interested in it,
Yeah.
getting that pet cow.
Very good, the previous motion stands. And I glossed over something as chairman, I apologize. We did add item 4A to the agenda, then I promptly skipped directly over it.
I was gonna mention that.
So I appreciate that. Little background on this, Robert McNally has served with this board as an alternate for several years now, and has done an outstanding job. Unfortunately, unable to attend this evening due to some other obligations. But I feel as though, given his time and commitment to this board, we owe the recommendation, should he accept it, that he be accepted as a full-time board member. Of course, that would be a Board of Commissioners action. But I'd like to bring that to a vote so the board could have an official stance on that item. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to just make a point. Anybody who comes to these board meetings, you can see it's not exactly a flourish, a funship. It's work. And he has come in work consistently through the years, because I've been here for 3. And you know, I just got reappointed. There's no reason in the world why he's not as equal to me, if not better, because he was here before I got here, if I remember correctly. So yes, I think we definitely should say, hey, the man's worked, he's earned the position, as I see it. And he can agree with me or disagree. Oh, thank God somebody disagrees, because that's what makes a board. So his opinions are not important. The fact that he's here working, he's smart enough to do the job. I strongly agree with you. We should do that.
Any further discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to personally thank Lee and Amy for all the hard work to try to make this happen tonight. Paperwork is out, sufficient, et cetera, and I'm sorry that y'all had to stay to not have this happen.
Thank you.
No big deal.
Brings up item number 7, planning staff report.
I'll be brief. The rezoning on Hayes Road that came before the board, you recommended approval to allow one piece of property to be zoned from highway corridor to residential. The Board of Commissioners did approve that, so those folks are moving forward to try to build their house. In addition, the Board of Commissioners asked us to look at possibly amending the ordinance to allow some type of residential use in highway corridor, so we didn't put people through that process again to have to rezone in order to build a house. So I talked to Jonathan a little bit about this earlier. That was an amendment originally residential was allowed in highway corridor and a subdivision got built. It was a fairly decent sized subdivision, and the board at that time saw that and said, well, that hinders future commercial development in that area because that subdivision is never going to go away. So it was amended to take residential out. But I think just talking it through with staff, we've kind of come up with a solution. So we're going to be bringing that to the board in the next few months. And really it just boils down to allowing residential, but with some pre-prescribed conditions, such as some minimum density requirements, maybe some maximum lot numbers, things like that. So you won't get big subdivisions, but you know, if a family member, or it doesn't have to be a family member, if somebody wants to cut off a few lots, they could do that, but in a way that wouldn't be a hindrance to a future employer that wanted to locate in one of these areas. So that'll probably be on the agenda in the next month or two.
But how could you stop it, though, if you had, argument's sake, you had two farmers side by side? And
There's-
they split up their property a little bit, and it, you know, and it went that way.
Yeah.
And it could have been, commercial.
Unfortunately, there's no silver bullet to those issues like that. There's always going to be something that pops up that could be a bad situation. But I think if you set the minimum lot size large enough,
If you're limited to the number of housing and development or something?
right?
Okay, so you're gonna have this developer come in and put 25 houses in, you're gonna have the developer next to him do the same thing, and, you know,
Yeah.
down the line. It could be four or
It-
five different developers.
If you made it such that the minimum lot size wasn't appropriate for the area, so if you'll remember that Hayes Road rezoning was smack dab in the middle of Indian Trail. Those folks, fortunately, they wanted, I think it was about 2.5 acres to build on, which is fine. That's not going to hinder any future commercial development. So if you set your minimum lot size as something like that, I don't think that's going to be really conducive for development. You're not going to have a developer that buys a piece of property smack in the middle of Indian Trail, and you know they're not going to want to do 2.5, 3 acre lots. They're going to want to do, you know, 6,000 to 8,000 square foot lots.
developments.
And I think you can kind of, you know, tailor it toward family members and larger lots to where it won't be a hindrance to future commercial.
No, that's something we have to think about to do.
It is, yeah, it definitely is. So that's it.
That's it.
Wow, that's easy. Brings up item number 8, and thank you, Lee. Brief comments, Pat?
I checked with staff, the 2 fingers on the Bible was acceptable. I just want to clarify that.
If you have a table, I put my whole hand on it, but I'm too tall.
Charlie, any comments? Russell, any comments? Louis?
No, sir, I'm not, we'll call it a day.
Vice Chairman Fisher? Only comment I have, again, thank you to Vice Chairman Fisher keeping me in line, and again, Everett will be missed. With that, I'd like to adjourn this meeting, 7:20 p.m., August 3rd, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So,
Second.
All in favor?
It was easy. We get paid full pay or half pay?